What is up, everyone? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, joined by my boy, my co-host, the head of social media here at Fireside Yankees. He's the one, the only, Sam Lucchini. Sam, how are you doing today? Yankees just swept the Cardinals. We've got a fun mailbag episode to do. Vibes are very high right now.
Folks, welcome in to the Monday mailbag episode. I'm back on the podcast. It has legitimately been months, maybe even years since I've been behind a podcast mic because I'm busy running the social medias, but we're back. We're going to do this for you guys once a week on our Instagram. We're going to post on our story, so keep your eye out if you want to submit a question. It's going to be on the Instagram story. We flood through every single question. We're going to answer them for you this week. We have 5 incredible questions from you guys that we handpicked that we think you're going to love to see our answers. But this is unbelievable. I'm so happy to be back behind a mic and be on the camera again. I really miss this, and it's a lot of fun. And this is going to be a real fun thing to do every week, Ryan, because we put these prompts up. I put these prompts up on Instagram every single week, and you guys flood them out with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of questions. So I figured, why not centralize it? Why not put it on a podcast, put it in a longer form episode for you guys to enjoy, and then it'll obviously get clipped and go on social media. But I'm excited. I think this is a really cool concept. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And our first question is from Ben Himes _45, who he asks, what should we do with Ben Rice at first base or catcher? Ben, thank you for the question. Sam, I'll let you take this one first.
Yeah, so I think the role that they currently have Ben Rice in makes a lot of sense. The guy's mashing right now, 7 RBIs last night against the Cardinals. He cannot be stopped at the plate right now. When you look at all the statistical stuff, he's one of the unluckiest hitters in baseball. But this guy, if you watch him on a day in, day out basis, he absolutely rakes. At this point now, you trust him a lot more with the bat than you do compared to a guy like Austin Wells. You probably trust him more with the bat than you do with a guy like Paul Goldschmidt. We've kind of been talking about it for months, Ryan. You need to play Ben Rice as much as you can and as often as you can, because that's not a bat that I want to take out of the lineup anytime soon. Wherever you can get him at first base, wherever you can get him at catcher, I don't really care. I think he should be playing first base not first base, but he should be in that lineup every single day, no matter what. And I think you can kind of play the hot hand here, because if Wells is struggling for a week, then you throw Rice behind the dish for a week. If Goldschmidt's struggling at first base, then you throw Rice at first base for a week. You play the hot hand, you play the matchups, but I think that Ben Rice needs to be in that lineup every single day, without a doubt. I'm sure that you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, Ben Rice right now has an 861 OPS dating back to June 21st. He's been red hot, specifically as of late as well. But that's a 40-game sample size, Sam. It's not just the last 2 weeks where he has been one of the best hitters on the team, one of the best hitters in baseball. All the underlying data screams this guy's going to get even better. I put out this crazy stat today, I guess it's yesterday because it's coming out on Monday, that Ben Rice and Juan Soto are the only 2 players who are in the top 10 in average exit velocity and also whiff less than the average hitter. So I know we don't like saying the other name on this podcast, but I think if we're being honest, this is one of the most talented hitters in baseball, just from a pure tool standpoint. The Yankees need to be playing him as much as possible. It pains me to say this is a Wells guy, that Wells is going to have to lose playing time, but Wells and Goldschmidt are going to have to kind of compete down the stretch here. Who's going to get these at-bats? Who's going to get to play more? Because Rice either has to catch or play first. You can get him some DH days when Judge is back in the outfield, but those are the 2 guys who are going to lose playing time. I don't think Ben Rice is even in that conversation at this point in time. And the big thing for me, too, Jack Curry saying the Yankees had no interest in trading Ben Rice at that deadline. I think that speaks volumes for the player that they think Ben Rice will be. Sam, do you have any final thoughts on Ben Rice?
Yeah, they're in crunch time right now. You need your best players in that lineup every single day, and right now, you have to continue to ride that hot hand and play Ben Rice every single day. They're in a really tough playoff stretch, Ryan. They might miss the playoffs. They need to win out and be incredible down the stretch just to get into the dance. So right now, I don't think it's worth it even pulling that guy out of your lineup at all, because he's been one of your best hitters, like you said, with the sample. And compare him to a guy like Juan Soto, which granted, he was here last year. We don't like him too much anymore. But this is a guy that got $800 million compared to Ben Rice, the brand new 22 on his team. That is legitimate. This guy's a freak. He's an unbelievable bat. He's got to play every single day, no matter what.
Yeah, and we often do not talk about the 22 that precedes Juan Soto in terms
Correct.
of left-handed hitting outfielder. That guy might actually be the one we never talk about again. Now, Sam, for this next question we have from Dom_TJ.KJ. And he said, what would be our wild card roster predictions? Now, Sam and I kind of came up with a roster, and they ended up being, I think they're exactly the same, if I'm not mistaken. So given that they're exactly the same, Sam, why don't you read off the Fireside Yankees 2025 playoff roster, or at least the wild card roster?
This is your Fireside Yankees 2025 American League wild card roster, assuming they're playing in the American League wild card. So me and Ryan matched this up. I don't think that there's anything crazy here outside of some bullpen decisions that we can get into. A lot of what you have on the current roster right now makes sense to get onto the wild card roster, just because I don't think there's any like debate as far as like who's going to play in the infield, who's going to play in the outfield. I think it's very much with the pitching and with the back half and how that all kind of shakes out. So as far as the two catchers, you have Austin Wells and Ben Rice. That's kind of stamped, like we just talked about it. Ben Rice needs to play every day. Wells is still going to be there. I don't envision JC Escara coming up and like beating Austin Wells out for a job. Your infielders right now, as it stands, you have Paul Goldschmidt, who's going to play first base. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is going to be your second baseman. Anthony Volpe is going to play shortstop. Ryan McMahon, McDouble, my guy, is going to play third base for you. And then you have Caballero, who's been excellent since coming over as a Yankee, right? So that's your infield. Your outfield, 5 guys. Nothing's going to surprise you here. It's going to be Aaron Judge, Jason Dominguez, Trent Grisham, Giancarlo Stanton, who like you would call an outfielder, but we all know he's not going to play the outfield. And Cody Bellinger, who's going to play center field. So with this situation, we are carrying 4 starters into the wild card round. So our 4 starters: Max Fried, no shock there. Carlos Rodon, no shock there. Luis Gil, no shock there. And your 4 starters will Warren. Now, this is where it gets tricky. It's with the relievers. So you have my boy, Low Lev Dev. That's Devin Williams' new nickname, guys. He's the GOAT in low leverage, okay? So that's Low Lev Dev from now on when you hear me on the street. That's Low Lev Dev, okay? Luke Weaver, excellent. No words. David Bednar, excellent. No words. We threw the boy Yeri in there. Yeri's consistent. He's incredible. Gives you length. Has been electric this year for the Yankees. Camilo Doval, he's on this roster. Tim Hill, been excellent. Fernando Cruz is nursing an injury. He will be back shortly, but he is lights out when he's on the bump. We decided to push 2 starters into the bullpen here, guys who've started games this year. The one guy's been out for a while, but we think he ends up making this roster. And the other guy has been electric as a starter, but we think he can move to the bullpen in the postseason. That one guy is Cam Schlittler, and then that last name is Ryan Yarbrough. Now, you will notice that there are some key names that are missing that are in the bullpen right now, and then some guys that are coming back from injury. So, Ryan, if you kind of want to highlight those guys that we kind of left out of the bullpen that will not be on this current wildcard roster, feel free. You have the floor.
Yeah, so Brent Hedrick, Jonathan Loaizaga, and Mark Leiter Jr. are the notable absences here. I think in the case of Loaizaga, look, the track record as a Yankee is probably stronger than a lot of guys in this bullpen, but it's very hard to stomach the 2025 struggles. I hope he pitches to a level where we can trust him in this spot. If you ask me, would I rather have Ryan Yarbrough or 2022 Jonathan Loaizaga? I'd rather have 2022 Jonathan Loaizaga, but that's not the player I'm guaranteed to have. In the case of Brent Hedrick, just hasn't pitched enough. Like, can he earn a spot? Can he beat out a Yarbrough as a lefty? Maybe, but I think we need to see a little bit more from him. Again, this is as of August 17th, so this, things can change in a month. And then for Mark Leiter Jr., it's weird. He's a very odd, weird reliever where he'll have some ups. There'll be moments where, like, hey, you see why the Yankees traded for him. And then there are those very frustrating lows, those lows where you go, I don't know if I can put this guy in a big spot. And given that Yarbrough provides length, given that you might want to not have to use Schlittler in that, hey, have him go out there and throw 3 innings to eat up or mop up a game. I don't want that for Schlittler. I want him to give me 1 great inning. If Warren has to be in the bullpen for a wild card series, again, I'd like to get 1 or 2 great innings, not 3, 4 like mop up duty innings. I don't know where Leiter fits into that equation. He's not going to pitch over Williams, Weaver, or Bednar. In low leverage, you go to Williams or Yarbrough. Schlittler's a wild card for you. Del Santo's kind of a wild card. So is Doval in a sense, but they have great stuff. And then Hill and Cruz have been reliable veterans for you this year. Again, there's just no one I think he's better than or does enough. He doesn't do anything different enough in terms of length or stuff for him to be in this group, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily Hedrick fits on here. I don't even think really he would be in consideration. I think we're legitimately a couple of days out from him not even being on this roster. He'll probably get sent down when Cruz and I know Loaizaga is rehabbing right now, but I don't even know how long he's going to stick on this current roster as it stands. So with that being said, I think they're going into a wild card round. It completely changes. MLJ is, to me, is a very frustrating player because there are some times, like you said, comes out, he looks dominant, like cannot be stopped. Like that splitter looks nasty sometimes. But then you have this weird blow up starts where he's like, we'll give up 3, we'll give up 4 today, and has costed this team several games. Started off really hot this year, but down the stretch has been relatively poor. And then Jonathan Loáisiga, like you said, with the whole career thing, he's been excellent over the course of his career as a Yankee. This year does not have it anymore. Just continuously gives up home runs. Like he's on the IL right now and is rehabbing, but I don't know what his role going into a postseason is. You don't trust this guy in the regular season to pitch in the 5th or 6th inning. I can't see him being trusted in the 5th or 6th inning in a postseason series to then go out and do the exact same thing and then give up 5 runs in an inning. And just kind of relatively lose you a game. So I think that the 3 of those names that miss out, it kind of makes sense. We understand, we have legitimate reasoning for it. And I think that this unit as a whole, when you look at it, is relatively strong. So I think that, for a bullpen that has severely struggled this year, I think that unit in and of itself looks good on paper.
Yeah, and I think, because I know that we're going to get comments about this, and I kind of thought it'd be a good time to bring this up. For a Devin Williams, yes, Devin Williams has lost a considerable amount of stock and trust. But I think if you asked me, of all of the guys who are on your bubble playoff roster, or you don't really trust, if there's anyone who I think could turn it on at any moment, it's Devin Williams. I don't feel that way. Leiter, again, can he earn a spot? I think there's enough time for him to do it. I think Loáisiga, it's going to take a lot for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm leaving somebody off the roster for him. Hedrick, there's not going to be enough time. There's not. You're right. He's going to get sent down, so there's not going to be enough time for him, barring an injury. I don't think you could argue. I think even if you're the most pessimistic person on Devin Williams ever, you cannot argue to me that Devin Williams doesn't have a higher chance of being impactful than the other guys I just mentioned. Some of these guys are washed. Loáisiga, I think, might be washed. Leiter doesn't have overpowering stuff, and Hedrick is very young, very inexperienced. More of a 2026, hey, hopefully he can stick with that team guy, in my opinion. That's nothing against Hedrick. It's just a lack of reps. So, Sam, I think with that bullpen and honestly, that roster, the Yankees would be in a really good spot. I think they can beat anybody. And I think that this is going to lead into this next question here. How realistic is this team on making a good playoff run? This from Eddie_money88. Eddie, thank you for the question. And Sam, do you want to start this off? Should I start this off? How do you want to do this one?
I could go. I think that, we've kind of been talking about it all year. The American League is wide open, and I still kind of think the American League is wide open. You've seen other teams, have massive success this year in the American League, but nobody's necessarily really pulled away to the point where it's when you look out in the National League, the Milwaukee Brewers are running away with the NL, and they look like the best team, hands down. They look unbelievable, right? There's no team in the American League that I look at, I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to go to the World Series. Everybody's still kind of mingling around that, wild card situation. You have your division leaders. The Astros look really strong, but, do they still have it? There's other teams that are in that mix. Is Boston going to go that far? Is Seattle going to go that far? Where do all of these teams kind of fit into that equation? And realistically, when you look at it, dude, it's all about when you get hot. If you can get hot down the stretch and play good baseball down the stretch, that's how you get into the dance. That's how you get into the World Series. The Yankees did that last year. They played hot ball down the stretch, ended up riding that into the World Series. I don't necessarily know if there's a true favorite in the American League right now. And with the pure talent that is on this roster that we just kind of went through, they have all the ability in the world to be able to blow through the American League and go to the World Series. Do I trust that they will do that? Probably not, because we've seen what has happened to this year with this team. There's been some ugly losses, brutal blows. Injuries have been awful. This team still, like you mentioned a lot, doesn't have Garrett Cole. So, this team has gone through a ton this year. We've kind of seen that unfold over the course of this season. Obviously, it's been gross at some points in time, and it's kind of hard for me to discuss this, after such a poor stretch that they've had over the past month. But I think that they have all the talent in the world to do it. It's kind of about putting their pieces together. It's a really talented group on paper. So I think that they can do it. Will they do it? I'm not necessarily sure. I don't know how much faith I have in that.
Yeah, this is a very frustrating team because it's not because they're bad. You know what I mean? The 2021 Yankees, I think, were a extremely flawed team that just lacked the talent at that point. Urshela had stopped being a productive third baseman at a high level. Luke Voit had taken a step back because of the injuries. Rizzo, I remember, had COVID and wasn't able to hit for power a little bit in September and then kind of got it back going in the end. Gallo was a complete disaster of a trade. Hicks was hurt and was bad. Gardy was on his last legs. Like, there were rotational issues. Like, there's too much for that team to overcome. This team has the talent to do it. This offense bangs. This offense rocks. This team can score with anybody. I think they lead baseball in OPS. This is not just the Aaron Judge show anymore. In fact, Sam, I think you could sit back and really argue that going into, if the Yankees played a playoff game tomorrow, that their scariest hitter is Giancarlo Stanton. You could realistically argue that going into a game tomorrow, if they went to a playoff game tomorrow, I think Judge's still the best hitter on the team, but that just goes to show how good Stanton has been. You have Bellinger, Grisham, Chisholm. You've gotten really good contributions from the bottom of the order. Volpe's hitting for more power. McMahon's been a really solid bat. Dominguez can hit. You have, I would even go as far as to say, like, I know Goldschmidt struggled as of late, but he has a 111 WRC plus this year. It's not like he's a complete bum of a hitter. Jose Caballero is awesome off the bench. Rosario can hit lefties. You have that depth. I didn't even mention Ben Rice. Oh, my God. And if Wells ever turns it on, that adds more to your offense. The pitching staff, again, the names on here, you're like, hey, why can't they do it? Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Heel, like, that's a 1-2-3 that should win you games. Will Warren's looks sharp this year. Bednar, Weaver, Doval, Hill, Cruz, Williams, like, this is a talented group. But will they put it together? Again, that's a big question, but is there anyone in the AL where I'm like, yeah, we match up with them, we're going to lose? No. Is there anyone in the NL I feel that way about? No. We just saw the Dodgers sweep the Padres after it was like, oh my God, the Dodgers blew a 9-game lead in the division in 1 month. There is no one in Major League Baseball. I'll throw the Brewers in here. I'll throw the Blue Jays in here too. No one in baseball where I'm like, just no chance of beating them. I think we could beat any of those teams. I'm not, but will they do it? Will they, like, I could totally see. It's game 5. They're up 3-0 in the 8th inning, and they make 2 errors, and they end up blowing that game. I could totally see it. They can outplay an opponent and still lose. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they're capable.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, when you look at the lineup up and down, like you just kind of mentioned, like this offense bangs. And if you compare them to the team last year that went to the World Series, that had the best duo offensively in baseball on that roster, plus playoff Giancarlo Stanton, this is a better lineup than that team was last year, like tenfold. I think you can probably agree with that. What it comes down to is the pitching. It comes down to the bullpen and the starters. Like, what are you going to get from those guys in the back half? Again, on paper, looks excellent, but that's the largest question is, are your starters going to be able to give you 6? Are you going to be able to get those last 3 innings from a bullpen that has been shaky all season long? So I don't think the offense is a question mark at all. Like, they just scored 12 runs again last night, and then like they pour on runs like there's no tomorrow. That's not where a question is at all, right? It's always about the pitching. If the pitching can come through, then like you're good. That's fine. But that's where the big question mark is. But like you said, they have all the talent in the world to do it. We'll see if it happens.
It's crazy because if they can, like, if Devin Williams pulled his head out of his rear end for 1 month, you could win the World Series. That's like, that's the sport that baseball is, and that's the team they have. They have at least like 3 or 4 relievers who have been up and down this year who, if they pitch to their true talent level, I think they'll win the World Series. Or maybe even just 2 of those guys. If Doval and Williams are Doval and Williams, I think they'll win the World Series. That's what it comes down to.
I think
things
that's
like that.
Completely fair.
But
it's 2 elite relievers.
Yeah.
Like like you talk about the deadline, like they have like 4 stud closers now. If they have those 4 stud closers, then like it's really hard to beat a team from the 5th inning on.
Exactly. And you have people who can strike people out, people who can be firemen, close games, you never know. Now, again, great segue into this next question from _another _nerd_. It's 3 underscores for those keeping count at home. Which relievers do you trust the most and why? So, Sam, we have built our reliever trust trees. Unlike our rosters, these do have minor differences. Overall, we have pretty similar views in the bullpen, but Sam, what is the Sam Lucchini trust tree? What do you got for me?
The Sam Lucchini reliever trust tree is a real thing because I get very frustrated with some of these relievers and some of these guys I genuinely love. Shout out Renegade. Shout out David Bednar. Him and Luke Weaver at the top, okay? Dreamweaver, Renegade at the top. Of course they are, right? And then the way mine is set up is I have everybody in 3 sections. So, like, this is the current bullpen. Just to let you guys know, this is the bullpen as currently constructed today as we're recording, not like the wildcard bullpen that we've been discussing for, like, what that playoff process is going to look like. So, your top 3 here, Luke Weaver, David Bednar, And a guy that maybe you'd be surprised is in that upper echelon is Tim Hill. I consistently trust Tim Hill to go out there and get me 3 ground balls. No matter what, I know that if you throw Tim Hill out there in an 8th inning, he's going to get the job done 110%. So those are the 3 guys I trust the most. You kind of have a middle section, and then you have a low section. That's going to hint to something, which is pretty funny. My middle section right now is Yeri. We just talked about how great he's been. He'll give you length. He'll give you a mop-up. Like, if you need somebody to come into the 4th, he will give you a 4, 5, 6 that is going to be clean no matter what. And Duvall, I think Duvall's stuff is absolutely gross. He is an absolute joy to watch. He's pumping 100, 101 cutters. He's kind of struggled since he's been over, but I think that at this point now, I love the guy. I love his stuff. I fully expect him to even out over the next couple of weeks. So he kind of fills that 5 spot. And again, out of 8 guys, he's on the lower end of that. So he's the 5th guy there. Now, my lower section, Low Lev Dev. That's my guy, okay? New nickname for Low Lev Dev, all right? Now, Devin, over the past week, has kind of helped himself not be at the bottom of the list because since he's turned into Low Lev Dev, he's actually looked excellent. So, Low Lev Dev, you're number 6 on the list out of 8 because you look great right now, okay? Number 7, Mark Leiter Jr. This is a guy that we just talked about. We're going to leave him off the playoff roster. I don't trust this guy in a lot of situations. Like, I don't, like, in a very, very low leverage situation, I trust Mark Leiter. But, like, if it's a 1-run game and you throw Mark Leiter Jr. in the 7th inning, I'm scared for my life. I think the Yankees are going to lose that game because I don't trust Mark Leiter right there, okay? That's why we're talking about we probably leave him off of a wildcard roster. And it's kind of the same thing with Brent Hedrick, who's still in that bullpen, who we mentioned, like, we don't even know how long he's even going to be on this roster. But, like, I don't trust Brent Hedrick too much. So, to recap, Weaver, Bednar, Hill are your top 3. Your middle guys, Yeri, Doval are your middle guys. And then at the bottom, Low Lev Dev, Mark Leiter Jr., Brent Hedrick. So I think that's relatively fair. I know that you have sort of a similar list, but like they're like kind of divided differently. So go ahead, let's hear it, Big Ryan.
Yeah, so I have Bednar and Weaver as my 1 and 2. I do have Hill with a gap below just because there are some splits against rights that can be a little bit rough, and I like the swing and miss stuff I get from Bednar and Weaver, but that is not a diss on Tim Hill. Tim Hill is our glorious American patriot. He descends from the heavens, riding a bold eagle, and he, as you mentioned, gets 3 ground balls. Just 3 ground balls every single time. Yeri De Los Santos, I think there's something there. I really like Yeri. I like the changeup. It's kind of like a split change. It's gross. He throws the sinker in the mid-90s. I think the velocity is important. I think having someone who can throw a little bit harder is important. They lacked that earlier in the year. I don't want that to ever be an issue for them again. Mark Leiter Jr., I had 6, and Williams, I had 7. Now, my reason for that is, yes, Williams has more upside, and I think Williams is a better pitcher, but I trust Leiter to not like come in and walk like 3 or 4 people or 2 or 3 people. If he's coming into a clean inning, I'm like, all right, he's gonna come in and he's either gonna, as you mentioned, he could crap the bed, but he could also just go after 3 dudes, and I don't have to worry about him walking anyone. I think the one thing that I will not hold against him is I do think his infield costs him at times, but again, his stuff isn't great, and that's a little bit scary. Like, he doesn't have that over. You can get to 0-2 and you can survive an at-bat against Mark Leiter Jr. Williams, I don't think you can do that. Brent Hedrick is my 8. I think he was my clear-cut 8. I didn't really have much stipulation there. Again, nothing against Brent Hedrick. I actually really liked him in spring. I really liked what he's shown so far, but he's not going to have enough time to get, that. He's not going to have that, like, season-defining outing where he gets a big guy out and you're like, yup, he's here. It's more like, again, 2026, that's, I think, the year where Brent Hedrick becomes, I think, like Yeri, it took him a year. He spent all of last year in AAA, gave him a year, now he's here. Hedrick, I think you give him next year and he'll be one of your better relievers. We will be talking about him in a much more favorable light. I
completely agree with you. I think that, like, there's, like, very, like, minimal things that, like, compare in our list that, like, okay, like, you do a flip here, like, you do a flip here, like, I think it all kind of makes sense. It's all pretty obvious, like, how that bullpen has worked and, like, how Boone is using it, like, at this current state. Like, obviously, he was throwing Williams out there in the 9th inning for a very long time, but finally got the pull, now he's Low Lev Dev. But I think that like all Yankee fans relatively have the same trust tree as far as like what the bullpen looks like right now, especially post-trade deadline. I know that people might be a little bit scared of Doval right now just because he's been a little bit shaky, but that's kind of the only real name that you could relatively contest, like should be a little bit lower, but I think he's kind of in a perfect spot, and like him like kind of being where he is like kind of makes sense. But I'm going to tell you right now, I do think it's nuts that like Yerry De Los Santos is above Camilo Doval in a reliever trust tree. Like that's probably the craziest thing about this list.
It's nuts because, again, like Yerry, I'm going to be honest, in June I would have been like, yeah, he's not making the team in the postseason. There's no shot of that happening. You have too many guys who could come back and steal that spot. And at this point, I'm like, I want Yerry in this bullpen. I do. I know he had that like meltdown against the Twins, but I also attribute that to just BS. Like 2 ground balls that go just to the left of Volpe and just to the left of McMahon. Like, I'm not going to hold that against him. And the other thing that's very important here, Sam, is, as you mentioned, the length. I can get 3 innings out of Yerry De Los Santos. That's huge. Like yesterday, not having to go to anyone in those 2 innings. Imagine if Mark Leiter Jr., because remember, Mark Leiter Jr. kind of melted down the ninth a little bit. When I say melted down again, it was like soft hits, but it still happened. And you have to bring in Bednar for that inning. Imagine if you had to use Weaver yesterday. Do you win today? I don't know. Like that's part of the value of Yerry. It's very valuable in the regular season. I think it'll be very valuable in the postseason. Now, Sam, I think this is the one you're the most excited for. This question is one that I don't think even our audience is ready for your answer on. And I'm going to let you just cook here from the Jacks on Pettit on Instagram. Thank you for the question. What is your opinion on the outfield situation going into next year? Sam, I'm going to let you cook on this one.
Okay, so this is a question that I specifically handpicked because I've had backdoor conversations with the guys about what the outfield is going to look like next year, and I think that the Yankees could line up to do something absolutely bonkers next offseason with their outfield situation, okay? So we're going to run through two separate scenarios. One of them is going to be incredibly realistic. The other is going to be absolutely bonkers. You guys are going to call me insane for it, and that's okay. That's fine, but this is just in my head, okay? So your realistic situation next year with the outfield is Aaron Judge is your right fielder, obviously. You re-sign Cody Bellinger. You would assume that he probably opts out and wants to go get more money. You bring back Cody Bellinger. He's going to be your everyday center fielder. Jason then is still your left fielder. It's kind of the way it's set up this year. But then they offer Grisham to QO. If he declines a QO, then they bring back him on a relatively decent deal for him. But the outfield kind of works the same way that it does this year, as far as Grisham plays sometimes, Jason plays sometimes, sometimes Belly gets off. Obviously Judge is playing right now. But you have your 4 guys, and then Caballero is kind of your 5th outfielder, can fill in whenever. Rosario is there, yada yada yada, whatever. Okay. So this second option is absolutely bonkers, and this is something that I proposed a couple weeks ago to the guys. And I don't know how crazy this is to you guys, but this has been in my head for weeks, and I need to get it out at some point. Okay. This is what the dream 2026 New York Yankee outfield looks like. You have Aaron Judge in right field, okay? Cody Bellinger still hits free agency, but you bring back Cody Bellinger in free agency. Your brand new New York Yankees left fielder is Kyle Tucker. Now that might sound crazy because you make 2 huge free agent acquisitions in Bellinger and Tucker, and you might be asking yourself, where does Jason go? Where does Spencer Jones go? Jason's obviously here right now. You don't know where Spencer's is going to be next year. Is he going to be on the roster? Is he going to be dealt away? Your 4th outfielder, realistically, is probably Trent on a QO. And then you have Cabby, you have Stanton there who could play outfield, but he's never going to play the outfield. And then you're probably asking yourself, where do Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez go, right? I think that Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez get packaged away for either A, a superstar pitcher, or B, a superstar infielder. Now, we kind of cooked up some names that we thought could be realistic in a package that would see the 2 of them go. Obviously, the big one that Brian Cashman said he would only trade this guy for, he only said that he would trade Spencer Jones for Paul Skeens. So Spencer Jones and Jason Dominguez get sent to Pittsburgh for Paul Skeens. Wouldn't everybody have a smile on their face? It would be the prettiest rotation of all time, right? Another starting pitcher that could be brought in. This is Joe Ryan from Minnesota. He's on a block. Apparently, he was a Boston Red Sox for about 30 seconds. Didn't happen. But that's another young, controllable starter that they could bring in for those 2 guys. And then more of a veteran option is Logan Webb, who's been the peak of consistency out there in San Francisco for the past couple of seasons and just adds another superstar type arm to, at this point, a group with Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, Schlittler, Warren, Schmidt, when you get him back next year. That is a superstar level rotation, right? And then for your other outfielder, you sign a cheap guy. And then as far as a star infielder, there's only one that we could really figure out that would kind of fit in. There's a rumor that came out today that Ketel Marte is not necessarily happy in Arizona. Now, if they were to package those two guys and bring in Ketel Marte to be another superstar level infielder, I think that makes this lineup even better than it already is. We're already talking about a team that has the best offense in baseball. Imagine adding a guy that's a 5F4 player and absolutely mashes in the infield. That offense would be absolutely unstoppable because at that point you're adding Ketel, you're adding back Bellinger, and you're getting Kyle Tucker. That team would be unstoppable. And I think the biggest reason why I came up with this large plan is what is the biggest criticism of Brian Cashman over the last couple of years? The largest criticism of Brian Cashman over the past couple of years is he's not capitalizing on Aaron Judge's window. He's not capitalizing on Garrett Cole's window. This is their window right now. And with these two young, controllable pieces, they can deal them away, bring in the big money stuff. Kyle Tucker is on the Aaron Judge timeline and the Garrett Cole timeline. So is Cody Bellinger. That is your, chips all in, superstar team. Let's go win a World Series. Let's go be the best team in baseball for the next 45 years whenever those guys get out. I think that they could end up creating a legitimate super team this offseason, Ryan. I want to hear your thoughts because obviously that plan is a little out there. It's pretty nuts, but I think that, I don't think there isn't a possibility. I think there could be something there.
Let's have some fun here.
Okay.
So Sam, as we know in the offseason, the Yankees, they tried hard to try and get Kyle Tucker. My understanding of the situation, even a guy like a Ben Rice, that wasn't off the table. George Lombard Jr. wasn't completely off the table. And again, this is 1 year of Kyle Tucker. I know that it's been reported Heel wasn't involved, but I think they would have moved Heel for Tucker. They like Kyle Tucker. Now, we don't know 100% they're going to go after him, but I would say that's a pretty good hint that they will at least look into it. For the rotation, Brian Cashman does not strike me as a guy who doesn't want to add to his rotation, even when he quote-unquote has 5 players he can put in his rotation. Look at last year. If you have Cam Schlittler, Will Warren, Spencer Jones, Jason Dominguez, some prospects like Ben Hess and Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, and a group of those guys could be traded, and you can get a frontline starting pitcher, I think a lot of people would be surprised with how attractive those players would be on the trade market. If you're the Minnesota Twins and you're seeing what Will Warren's doing right now, look at Joe Ryan's first full season in Minnesota. In his first full season with the Minnesota Twins, put up his first season there, put up a 4.05 ERA in 5 innings. His 2023 season, a 4.51 ERA. So through 3 years, a 4.05 ERA with the Twins. But good underlying metrics. They worked with him. He got better. Will Warren is right now, after the Cardinals start, at a 4.25 ERA with good underlying numbers. And he's 5 years of control. That is an attractive trade chip. I'm not saying I want to trade Will Warren exactly, but if you're the Twins and you're going to trade Joe Ryan, you're considering it this offseason, what young pitcher the Red Sox have to offer that they're going to trade is Major League ready and has shown that kind of production. If they trade a Peyton Toll, maybe they'll get him, and he's obviously super valuable, but are the Red Sox going to do it? I don't know. If you offer that, and you mentioned Jones, and you mentioned Dominguez, you have an offer that's really hard to beat. That's a really hard offer to beat. And if you have Joe Ryan, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, you mentioned Carlos Rodon as your 4-starter. Could you think about that?
That's unbelievable.
That's insane. That's unbelievable.
It's
unbelievable.
He's making $27 million a year, and it's your 4-starter. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
And Ryan's cheap because of the money. Money-wise, he'll be cheap for this year, next year. He might be an extension candidate. I'll actually throw one more name in the ring here because I completely forgot that he was on the Twins. Pablo Lopez. He's another guy where I know he's making money, but he's not going to cost as much as a Joe Ryan in the trade front. Point is, though, I think the Yankees are uniquely positioned to trade a lot, and I think that the Yankees will trade a lot for a team that they believe they can compete with, and I believe they can compete with the 2026 team. So, Sam, do I think Paul Skeens a Yankee? No, but do I think the blueprint of sign Kyle Tucker, sign Cody Bellinger, and trade outfielders for pitching, is that out of the window? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think they'll absolutely explore it. And one little nugget from the deadline I never really talked about that a player they were in on and they were very aggressive for was Yohan Duran. I did report that, but Spencer Jones wasn't off the table for that player. I heard Jason Dominguez wasn't off the table for that player. So Just going to drop that there. The Twins, they like those players. The Marlins really like Spencer Jones. You know about Edward Cabrera, maybe he gets moved. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, those are players that are talked about, man. Those were. I know that John Heyman, I know that he said that it was only for Skeens, but, like, dude, the Yankees were willing to, there were players out there, and there were packages out there the Yankees would have been willing to throw one of those outfielders for. Brian Cashman is not going to hold on to those two like they're, the next Derek Jeter or the next Aaron Judge. He'll trade them if it's there. He'll trade them. I'm not sold that he wants to keep both forever.
Yeah, the Skeens thing is obviously like dream scenario. This is like top 2 pitcher in baseball we're talking about, like them trading for with 5 years control. Like that's like the craziest thing that would ever hit the market. I think that my biggest thing with Skeens is like I don't think with Paul Skeens him getting traded is like an if thing. It's kind of more of a when thing. And I think that with that asset, like that Paul Skeens does not want to stay in Pittsburgh. He's already complaining about them getting bats in the offseason. He said that a couple weeks ago. They need to bring in bats because they're they're genuinely a bad baseball team. And for you to house a top 2 pitcher in the sport that's not happy, what makes you think that he's going to want to re-sign with that organization for the long term, that he's not going to want to go to a winner? So I think it's a matter of if, not when, or it's a matter of when, not if, with Paul Skeens getting traded. But like that's like obviously your big fish. But I think that them splurging money and kind of like going all in on this window is like not the craziest thing in the world, just because like they're in a very, like you said, a very unique situation where they can deal away those guys for like high level starting pitching. And it was kind of shown at the trade deadline because they didn't trade a single top 7 prospect for what they ended up getting back. And they essentially rebuilt their bullpen overnight and then have a roster to then field next year. And they're still going to shed money this offseason. So, like, I think that Brian Cashman beautifully positioned this team to do something unbelievably crazy this winter. And I think that, that like dream type scenario would be nuts. I think it would be the coolest thing ever. I don't think it's unrealistic. Do I think it's like a guaranteed thing? No. But, like, it's still on the table for me. I still think it's like a legitimate thing that could happen.
Also, like, Brian Cashman might be done in the next few years. Not like fired. He might retire.
Yeah.
Like I will never forget what Andy Martino's book that came out last year, that conversation where like Cashman considered retirement. He might retire. Like if you're Brian Cashman, you don't want to go out on a loser. You don't want to go out on a rebuild. You want to go out on a winner. And Paul Skeens, again, I don't think it's going to happen this winter, but you mentioned it's not if, it's when. Look, Paul Skeens, when are you going to stop eating shrimps with wimps? Come eat lobster with a monster. Come eat lobster with the monster in the Bronx, man. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. You could come in. If you're Paul Skeens, you could, and if you're any of these pitchers, like you're on the Twins, Joe Ryan, you could be a Game 1 starter for the New York Yankees and know that you're the ace of the New York Yankees and pitch next to Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, have one of the best offenses in baseball behind you, and win 100 games and go immediately from like, oh my God, I'm not going to compete for the next 4 years to we're going to win a World Series. And also for the Yankees, like, and for Brian Cashman, there is no better way to go out. Imagine going out on the note of, I brought Tucker to this team. I brought back Bellinger. I improved the rotation with a guy who's here for not just this year, but next year. Fried and Rodon are here for the foreseeable future. Cole is here for the foreseeable future. We've still got a young pipeline of pitching talent. I didn't even mention Luis Heel. Luis Heel, like, didn't even mention him. Rookie of the year winner, didn't even mention him. All of that, and then you just say, sayonara, guys, peace out. If Brian Cashman went out in a ring and gave this team an incredibly talented roster and set a precedent of we're going all in, couldn't think of a better way for a guy with four World Series titles to go out.
Yeah,
maybe out of 5th.
That's why I think it's like
I got 5 on it.
Again, that's why I think it's realistic. It's because like that guy's gonna want to go out with a bang. So I think that I think it's on the table. Like it's like we will be eyes on that situation this winter because like, dude, like the Cubs are out there booing Kyle Tucker. Like I don't think that guy goes back to Chicago. Like they didn't go into the deadline when they clearly have a good baseball team and 1 year of a top 5 outfielder on the planet. Like what are we doing out there in Chicago, guys? Like something's got to go down. And I think that Tucker's going to cost significantly less than Juan Soto is, right? But he's going to play and hit next to Aaron Judge for the next 5 years. And I think that is a very hard thing for somebody like that to turn down. So I think that pairing makes a lot of sense. I think Bellinger really loves being a Yankee, and we love having him as a Yankee because of his versatility. He plays incredible defense, and that bat looks awesome. And then you just shell out for like an incredible starting pitcher to add to that super talented group. So I think it's a scenario that I hope that we can revisit this in a couple months and be like, oh wow, like this was on camera. That's crazy. Like, again, it's not a guarantee, but like that would be unbelievable. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. That's like the craziest, like juiced up scenario that's been in my head for a while.
Dude, it'd be nuts. And again, Kyle Tucker, like same thing I said to Paul Skeens. Come have outfield monster, man. Get the hell out of Chicago, dude. Get out of there, man. That ballpark ate up Cody Bellinger last year, and Cody Bellinger's been a stud this year. Could you imagine Kyle Tucker?
He's unbelievable, dude.
Could you imagine Kyle Tucker with a short porch and not that deep right field and the crazy win in Wrigley? That guy would hit 40 home runs. I genuinely believe Kyle Tucker would like finish top 3 in AL
and the doubles and the gaps. I think he would eat with the doubles and the gaps too. Like.
Could you imagine an offense where you have Ben Rice, Kyle Tucker, Aaron Judge, like Cody Bellinger, Giancarlo Stanton, Jazz Chisholm? Like,
who?
That top 6
How
right
far
there,
down is Jazz?
6.
Jazz Chisholm Jr. is your 6 hitter. Dude.
Stan's your 5 hitter.
What are we talking about here? That's
dude,
nuts.
that right there is guaranteeing you a top 2-3 offense in the league. And then depending on what happens, like if again, if Volpe is a net hitter, that's fine. If McMahon continues to do what he did, that's fine, because that's your bottom 3. Wells, I think that's the wild card. If he's 2024 Wells, you have the best offense in baseball. If he's 2025 Wells, you might have to have some conversations. But that group, right, and you have Caballero who can hit lefties and come off the bench for you.
Yeah.
I didn't even like. You're laughing. You're incredible. That lineup is stupid.
Yeah.
And your defense is great too. Your defense is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just the best team in baseball. It is.
For sure.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, hands down.
But, Sam, is there anything you want to add on your outfield plan?
That's it, dude. Don't call me nuts. I'm not on crazy pills. This is just like what I think about and how I spend my day is creating fantasy baseball rosters in my head for the New York Yankees in 2026. So that's where I'm at. We'll see if it happens. Probably not. But, like, hey, man, it's just my life and I'm going to live it.
Yeah, man. Dude, hey. No, we're not in charge of building rosters. I'm not losing my job if the 2026 team sucks. Someone could lose their job if the 2026 team sucks, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you everyone for the questions. They were great. They were awesome. There were so many great questions. We're going to keep doing these, keep sending out prompts, keep submitting your questions. We will do these every single week. They're going to come out on Mondays. We'll do them on Sunday nights. So, that's kind of your cutoff, I guess, for the prompts. I don't know if they're timed, Sam. Is it like a timer?
It's just like a 24-hour thing. So it goes,
Gotcha.
We post, I'll post on Saturday evening every weekend, and then like it's like relatively like a 6 p.m. cutoff the next day. So like submit your questions on Saturday night. Look out for the Instagram story. Get them in there, and yeah, hopefully we will select yours if it's interesting enough. Don't send me some slop. I promise you guys, if you send me some slop, I'm not going to answer it. Or if it's funny enough, maybe I'll answer it on the story. So how about that?
Yeah, I can't. We unfortunately cannot answer questions that just say a guy sucks or Aaron Boone's the worst person ever.
Sorry, guys, I can't answer questions about Magneto and Marvel Rivals. It's unfortunate, but like I can't do that on a podcast. So I'll answer.
I disagree. I think that could happen. That should happen.
I'll answer them on the Instagram story. I think that's a lot more fun and like it's cool. But yeah, So hopefully we pick you guys next week. Thank you guys for submitting all the questions. Seriously, they were super in depth. Super in-depth and super interesting, and I'm glad that I got the outfield question so bad. That's great.
Yeah, and if you guys listen to this on the YouTube and you're not following the Instagram, which I seriously doubt, I don't know how that happens, but follow the Instagram because then you can put your questions in there. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, checking us out here at Fireside Yankees on the YouTube page. We're obviously available on Instagram, but other social medias, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, all under the same handle at Fireside Yankees. Have a great rest of your day. Let's go Yankees, and peace out.
Perfect.